Super excited to be here with you. I never know. It's really weird. Like the intro kind of continues a little bit and then it maybe goes to black and then maybe I didn't edit it right. And so I've noticed when I go back and watch some of these videos, because I just check the intro, right? Because I really like the intro. Like I'll just jam to it because I have no life. But I'll look at it on LinkedIn and I notice like there's this awkward silence where I'm like sitting there and I'm like, welcome to like, all right, well, that looks a little bit weird. Maybe I can do that better or differently next time. Always something to strive and improve to. But welcome to episode number 4 of Outwired. Super excited to be here with you. We're going to talk about all kinds of things today, but we're going to start by opening this with kind of a new thing I think we're going to do. And by the way, before I even say that, like, is it amazing that we've gotten to week 4 and we haven't been canceled yet? Because I don't know.
Maybe
Or
we
maybe
haven't
we
known.
have and we just haven't been told, right? Maybe they just
Exactly.
pulled the
How would
plug
we
on us.
know? That's
Yeah,
exactly
that's a
right.
good point. So, but I think we'll start this with like a really cool, interesting thing that you've seen done, come across in the last week. And I kind of explained it to you guys, like anything like AI, tech, campground, data, consulting, like unrelated and completely off into the wilderness of whatever the fuck is going on. Like that's mine today. But like feel free. Who wants to start? Greg, Scott?
Sure. I'll start. So really cool tech stuff. I don't have any because that's your realm.
I mean,
But
it doesn't have to be tech.
as far as consulting goes, we've got a I don't know if I can talk about it. Everything I've got is top secret. Can I talk about top secret stuff? I don't know if I can talk about it.
I mean, we just
Sure,
talked
go
about how
on.
we were probably canceled and no one's watching. So it's
Probably
like
canceled. Nobody's watching.
secret club where nobody's. Yeah.
Okay. So we just helped one of our clients get to, and I'm just going to pat myself on the back. I'm not going to say the client, not going to say the project, but we helped them get to closing on their on a new acquisition, and it just felt really good. It was like a giant weight got lifted because there was all kinds of stuff leading up to closing.
I feel like you can say it because it was posted on LinkedIn along with
It
the
was,
front
yeah.
page of the closing document, which probably should have been blurred. But
you saw that? Did you zoom in on that? Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. We helped KCN get across the line with their newest acquisition, and it was a lot of fun. It was our first time working with them. What a great team! They were just, and it felt great to see that this morning because I didn't know when I went to bed last night. There was stuff in the inbox like, is it going to get there? Is it not? And then I woke up this morning and saw that picture of Kevin holding the closing documents, and it felt freaking awesome.
have you
So
considered
that was
like
news for us.
have you considered staying up later, Greg? Because
No.
all the cool shit happens after you go to bed.
Yeah, I'm certain of that because by 9:30, I am either falling asleep or at least horizontal in preparation for it. I can't. Yeah, I'm. My sleep clock is that of an older person.
Last year, that used to be me too, and then last year I committed because I learned that Scott actually stays up till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Disco raves and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I need to be young again like Scott. And so I committed myself. And I've only made it to 9:45, 10 o'clock now. But it used to be 8. No, I didn't really, but 9:45, 10. So like you can do it, Greg. We believe in you.
I will try to push that extra 15 minutes. I will do my best.
All right. Scott, what do you got?
I was going to talk a little bit about the consulting thing a little bit. We had a pretty good week, some interesting stuff is coming through. I feel like in the consulting world, one of the two things happens when you get busy. It can either be a good sign or a bad sign. It depends on who it is that's coming across your desk. So, but really, when you mentioned it, just anything, you know what I thought of? I don't know why, just popped in my head. The cool little coffee makers that are coming out.
Okay.
There's like for people who are active or whatever, these kind of all in one, like espresso brewers that you
Yep.
can your pack or whatever. It carries everything, and then the coffee's like right there, and it keeps it hot. And it's just like, this is what I've been waiting for.
So this is interesting. Like I actually backed one of these on Kickstarter, like I don't know, 8 years ago. Maybe it was a little bit less than that, right? But it was years ago. It was when there was a woman who used to work for me named Angela Hilton, and she was big into espresso. And I actually like backed this on Kickstarter with the intention of giving it to her. And then like it went through as many things on Kickstarter do. It's like we don't know if we're going to make it as a company, and everything's in chaos, and we don't know what's really happening. And we just and so I never thought I was going to get it. It took like I don't know 3, 4 years or something like that. And by that time, like Angela had quit and moved on. And so like I don't even know. I don't even think it's in storage somewhere. I don't even think I've ever opened it. But it was a little like camping espresso thing, like an all-in-one maker that didn't require like very much power or any power. I can't remember, but like right. But that kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, this one's like a little stovetop thing. You just heat it up, and it pushes the water through up into the chamber, and it's like, and you have this really great coffee with you on the go. It's like, I don't know. I love that kind of stuff, by the way. So if anyone's thinking of gifts or anything, I know we're past the holidays, but my birthday's this summer, so just keep that in mind as we move forward.
Yeah,
All right,
I thought the
I can dig that out of
AeroPress.
storage for you. I can dig that out of storage.
There you go. Send in
Yeah.
the prototype.
I'll
I thought
take
the
it.
AeroPress was cool enough when I saw it, but you're not kidding, Scott. Some of the ones now that like grind the beans, pack the beans, press it through
Yeah,
the hot water, and spit it right out of
exactly.
the cup. That's incredible.
I
Yep.
mean, this is a pretty cool day. Like I'm not saying that I was gonna get you guys Christmas gifts, but now it's all like I've got Scott's thing, and Greg on the show earlier we determined wants a little bird speaker recorder thing for his garden. And so it's done. Like I don't know how much these things cost, but if they're under $17, yes to both of you. No problem. 17 Canadian dollars to be clear.
Appreciate the budget.
Um,
$350 then. That's cool.
Yeah, 350. Go ahead, Scott, finish. Were you going to say something?
That was really it. It was these coffee, and you know what? It just speaks to me as obviously someone who works in research, is that the innovations, like people are thinking about products that fit with people in their lifestyles and how they want to use it, and it's just like, I don't know. I think that we're seeing a lot of these like boutique companies pop up doing this kind of stuff, and I don't know.
And I love it. Like I love it. Like we talk frequently on the show about like the big inventions, right? But like the little things, like if you're looking for something to differentiate what you're doing, like put a cool little espresso maker there on the counter, right? Like how much does that cost you?
Yeah.
And
It's
then
so true.
sell it and let them take them home with it too.
Yep.
Things
another
that make
revenue.
your life just a little bit easier, those kinds of things. It made me think of a survey we did with RVers several years ago about what you always bring with you RVing, like other than the usual
Your
stuff.
RV.
It's
That's
like
what I always bring with me.
if the things that were listed, the first one was like a chair,
Whiskey.
a chair. People bring a chair with them, just whatever. But number two,
Why do you bring a chair with you? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like you have a couch in your RV. Why do you bring a chair with you?
because some people aren't indoor pets. They like to be outside.
That's right.
Then why do you have an RV? Like have a tent.
You need to excuse yourself for a few minutes, Brian, because Greg and I are going to have a conversation about you.
Yes.
Because there's a potential intervention coming here.
Okay.
So,
I'm just asking a question. I'm just saying it feels like an extra expense. Like you've already spent on the RV with the couch. Like
anyway,
don't some of them have those porches that come out or whatever that like motorized?
The number two item, I'm going to talk over you now.
Okay.
The number two item was a rug to put in front of the steps in their RV. Because again, not applicable for your situation, Brian, but some people go in and out of their RVs quite a bit, inside and out. So a rug. So anyway, this is kind of one of those things where those little things that add value to your experience.
Yeah, no, I mean obviously I'm just messing around.
That and a bottle of Booker's. So
yeah, a bottle of Booker's. Like I didn't have a time to get a new thing, so this has been sitting here on the. I haven't touched it since last week, but
yeah, we almost believe that.
No, I have a bottle of Redbreast in the basement. Like I've drank whiskey, just not this since last week. Anyway, okay. So my thing is, and that's a good point. Like I think, but I was going to say like those little experiences that can make the difference. Like have like sell rugs in your store, obviously sell chairs
Right.
in your store, like and market them to people before they come. Like I don't know, like upsell them on their terrible chair and replace it with like a super comfy one that's in your camp store or whatever, right? There's
Right.
all kinds of ways that you can make ancillary revenue. We'll actually talk about that, I think, at the end of the show with making ancillary revenue and maybe thinking differently about your RV park and some things like that with day use and stuff like that. But my thing, I think, for the week was so you guys watched this before the show. I was playing this a little bit on YouTube. But, just the advancements in health that are coming as a result of not just AI, but the technology is advancing just generally in healthcare and medicine and biology so fast. So you guys heard the anecdote that he was talking about taking the cell. What was he saying? He was taking a cell, and some guy created a medicine from this that's an injection that has been through FDA clinical trials 1 and 2A, I think he said. And he had 18 people who were confined to a wheelchair that were moving or whatever, got this injection that's like and 6% muscle mass increase. That's insane. Because what he went on to say in the show, that Tom Billio, the host, went on to say was like, there's a bad rap for people who take steroids because people think they're cheating. But like, you can take all the steroids in the world and you can't build muscle unless you get in the gym and work yourself out to death almost, right? Like you still have to put in the work. You're just perhaps have an edge up in the competition of that. And so like having a shot like that is crazy for people who have disabilities like that and are unable to build that kind of muscle mass back. But the one thing that I was going to talk about was that there's actually a company that has taken. So are you guys familiar with, do you guys follow any of this weird medicine stuff once in a while? Like, does it come across your desk at all? Okay.
Typically not.
There's a
Not
company
really.
that can take a cell from your skin and can turn it into, I'm going to butcher the name of it, like a pluripotent something stem cell. Like it's a type of stem cell. So they can turn, that's many companies have been able to do that for years. But they can take that stem cell then and they can actually grow an embryo from it of you. Like, no shit, this is happening right now. They've got it gestated up to 26 weeks. Like, it's not a full embryo, like it's the size of the pea, right? But it's literally a clone of you, 26 weeks from your stem cells. And then you can use that to like take your own stem cells and your own DNA from it to repair your own body. And this is happening like right now. This is not in the future. This is not coming. Like it's not in the United States, and it's perfectly legal. Obviously, there's ethical, all kinds of up the wazoo about it, right? And I'm not coming down on either side of it. That's a debate for another show. But the problem ethically in the 90s was the stem cells coming from real babies who were not your own, third parties, all that stuff, right? But this is actually yourself that you're basically taking your stuff from. So I just think it's really interesting to see how fast medicine is advancing. And like, I'm a firm believer that if you live for the next, let's say max 10 years, I think it's closer to 5, that we're going to start reverse engineering our aging. That will end up, I think, initially like allowing us to have a healthier lifestyle. Like I think right now the life expectancy is 79 years old in the United States. And the age at which you begin to like really decline is 63 on average. So there's a 17-year gap with quality of life, basically. And so that's what's going to improve first, is the quality of life is going to extend to the point where you actually die. And then your longevity will begin to expand. So I'm excited for this. Like Greg, I think I texted you, Greg, and you're like, we already lived long enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why.
Yeah.
Why do you think we lived long enough already?
We don't want to get
Some of
into
us do, to be clear, but
carrying capacity and resource levels and that kind of stuff. But that's that might be a topic for another show or a never topic. But yeah,
it's probably a never topic.
It's probably
yeah.
a never topic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that might be a third. Topic. That might be a third rail.
I was just curious if there was a quick answer that you wanted to get.
With me, never. No, okay. I talk too much.
All right. So I think it's time for our quick segment. Obviously, that we have. Lisa, do you want to hit the quick segment for us real quick that we're going to talk about?
Bird talk, squawk, squawk. Nerds invest, taking notes on a hawk. Peck, peck, flap, flap. They know every bird call, but still live with their cat. Tweet, tweet, talk, talk. Welcome to Bird Talk. Brace.
Okay, so I cut down the intro for you, Greg.
That was
Super
good.
quick.
Thank you.
But there, because we don't obviously want to have the full minute every time. We'll get to that in 1 second, Lisa. I'm just going to show a picture in a second of our bird of the week. I did send this to you guys in advance. It's actually called a blusterbeak honk lord. So if you guys want to go, I don't know. I'm going to read in a second where it's native to. So if you guys want to go see if you can find it. So this is a bird that is so loud and unnecessarily dramatic that it is banned from most nature reserves. The blusterbeak honklord thrives in chaos and inconvenience, known for its ability to disrupt peaceful environments with its nonstop honking. This bird is the absolute worst roommate nature has ever produced. Its physical traits are a size. It's roughly the size of a turkey, but its ego makes it seem much larger. It's tiny compared to its massive body, or its head is tiny, sorry, compared to its massive body, giving it an eternally confused look. Its beak is oversized, shaped like a tuba, and fully capable of producing an ear-splitting foghorn-like honk at will, and it wills often. Its wings are absurdly puffy and completely decorative. It flaps them for intimidation rather than flight. Its legs are unreasonably muscular. It can sprint at 30 miles an hour, but never does, choosing to waddle menacingly instead. Its tail is extra long and whippy, often knocking over objects and other animals without the bird even realizing it. Its abilities are weaponized honking. The blusterbeak's signature move is a sonic honk capable of startling predators, shattering windows, and ruining weddings. It's unprovoked stare downs. It will lock eyes with anything for an uncomfortably long time. It does not blink, ever. Theatrical death feint. If startled, it throws itself to the ground in an over-the-top feint, only to peek with one eye to check if anyone is watching. That'd be interesting to catch through your binoculars, Greg.
Indeed.
Are we close to anything here? Or
well,
is there a bird that actually exists similar to this or no?
No, but if you're getting into sound, right? So you've got like the white bellbird of the Amazonian rainforest, which is loudest bird on earth, like around 126 decibels, like jet engine level. I've never experienced that one, but I have experienced the screaming pia, which if anybody has ever watched a movie set in any rainforest or jungle anywhere in the world, you hear the screaming pia, whether it be Indonesia, Africa, it doesn't matter. If you're in the jungle, you hear that, despite the fact I'm the worst person in the world to watch a movie with, because I'll hear a bird sound and go, doesn't exist on that continent. I don't know why they did that. They could have just employed a grad student and fixed all that, but they didn't. But you will hear this, and everybody knows it. If you next time you watch a movie, you're going to go, I hear that. That's a screaming pia. And then you can look at the person next to you and go, they're about 116 decibels, but not quite as loud as the white bellbird. Just saying.
Scott, this is way better when we actually have Greg correlate our bird with real life, isn't it? That's interesting. Yeah, this is way better. And you got to do the call. You got to make up what we think the call is.
Oh, that one. That'll take some time. Yeah. I'm going to do that next week.
Oh, you're going to do. But we'll have a new bird next week. Okay, so then we're almost done here. But stealthily, but bad at it, attempts to sneak up on prey, but due to its uncontrollable honking, fails 100% of the time. I don't know how it eats then. That's kind of interesting. Thief of small objects, has an obsessive need to steal shiny things and dramatically flee the scene, honking in triumph. And its behaviors and habitats, here we go, this is important, Greg.
Yes.
Prefers to live in suburban areas where it can loudly insert itself into human affairs. Its nesting habitats are disastrous. It gathers piles of stolen objects, including car keys, cell phones, and children's toys, and then sits on them like an egg. Its courtship involves two honk lords honking at each other until one passes out from lack of oxygen. That's interesting.
That is interesting. The nesting behavior is similar to the bowerbirds in Indonesia, Australia.
They pass out from oxygen?
No, they put all kinds of they'll steal shiny things and put them on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right. Frequently appears on social media because of its habit of photobombing people and causing minor public disturbances. And finally, feared by local wildlife due to its unpredictability and refusal to take anything seriously.
That sounds like a lot of people I know.
What do you think this looks like?
I can't wait to see. I have no idea. I can't wait to see it. The tail sounds menacing.
All right, Lisa, go ahead. Let's see what this thing looks like.
Very nice.
Bluster beak, like it's kind of terrifying, actually. Or it's like some kind of, I don't like. If you look at the eyes, it's like a drug-induced stupor of some kind.
It looks a little. It's got like King Vulture eyes, and it's got the Looney Tunes honka honka horn on it. On the front.
Or like starvation of some kind because it can't catch its prey. But I don't know how. Like,
yeah, I don't know how that thing's feeding, but if it gets to that size and it looks like a turkey, I mean, it very well could be delicious. So,
So you're advocating, like, I think, honestly,
I mean, I'm a
just to be clear, I think this is an endangered species because I haven't seen
well,
one.
if that's the case, if it's living in an urban environment, it's no endangered species. I can tell you that. That's
all right. That's
for sure.
Okay. All right. So we're done with bird talk. I think Scott, I think next week I should make a data talk segment for you.
Yeah.
We don't want people to go to sleep.
I mean, I could make a pretty cool intro, Scott.
I think so. I would love to see that.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Yeah. All right, then I'm on board then. I'm on board.
All right. So let's get into our meat of our topic today. We're going to talk about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, but specifically and narrowly, like we're not intended to start a political discussion here. We're not coming down on one side or the other in favor of Elon, not in favor of Elon, in favor of Trump, not in favor of Trump. Nobody's saying anything of that sort. We're specifically and narrowly here to talk about the impact of what DOGE is doing on the National Park Service, on the Forest Service, and how that may or may not impact private campgrounds in 2025 through a variety of different methods. And actually, I did skip this, Scott. Didn't I tell you we were going to talk about something else before we went into DOGE?
No,
should we pivot back or should we just keep going with DOGE?
Keep going. We're rolling.
So, like, I think, there's several talking points we kind of pulled up here. We ran some deep research on this, in preparation for this. For those do you think there's anybody who doesn't actually know what DOGE is?
No.
All right. So let's just, for a second, let's pretend Lisa actually raised her hand over here. But she's Canadian. What are you doing with your time, Lisa?
Oh, sounds like she's staying happy. So good for you, Lisa.
Maybe. Okay. All right. So DOGE was established in January 2025 under a Trump-Musk partnership aiming to slash government bureaucracy and reduce federal staffing. And it is enforced a hire one for every 4 let go rule, resulting in roughly 1,000 National Park Service and 3,400 U.S. Forestry Service employees being terminated, although 5,000 seasonal positions were later reinstated. I think they've stated in some different articles that this is still a lot less than we had before. So let me just toss it to Scott first, since I skipped him on some of the other data stuff. What do we think this is going to do to National Parks and Forestry Service?
I think if things continue on this path, if the staffing levels are dramatically reduced, which it looks like it will be, and from what I understand, it's going to be mostly seasonal. Visitation will be down at the national parks. I don't think there's any question about that.
Immediately or over time, or?
I think it'll happen immediately.
Okay.
You may see a pickup later on if things go smoothly, but I think part of this is understanding who the national park guest is, which is a lot of people, most. But,
it's me. Like, I love the national parks.
Right, exactly. So, but part of the experience of going there for many people is, things like, the educational stuff, having experts on staff. Then the one thing that I think is, I always make a big deal of this, and people look at me funny sometimes when I say it, but the idea of safety is gonna come up. People feel better when there's staffing present,
Yeah.
and whether
Anywhere, but yeah, especially in nature.
yeah, and so you think of some of these parks, think of Yosemite, think of a place like Zion, where some of their hikes, I mean, people drop off the edge there all the time,
Yep.
Yeah.
and it's they tend to feel a little bit better with having that expert there. Also knowing that, like,
And you
for
can't, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but and you can't communicate. Like I was at, I think it was either Zion, it was one of the Utah state parks years and years ago with my ex-girlfriend, and I had my stepdaughter with me, and she went up and did a hike on her own and didn't come back for like an hour longer than we thought, and there was no cell phone communication, and there was no way to get a hold of anybody,
right,
and so like we're freaking out, like wondering, is she laying up there like injured, or like, because it would have taken us an hour and a half to get to her, so there's no point in us following her up, right? But finally she came down. But that's the kind of thing that, like, if there's not people available to be that communication buffer zone for you, that's bad.
and the simple idea of having a resource there for information,
Yeah.
not just information that you pick up from a book or whatever, but people who have spent time in the backcountry, who have, if say you're doing
And in that specific area.
yes, yep. So those are the things that I feel like you'll lose some people for that reason alone. The staffing, it's gonna be harder to staff up some of these functions, whether it's keeping the bathrooms clean or picking up the trash, monitoring crowds, the parking lots. There's a lot to this, especially some of the national parks. Isle Royale is out in the middle of Lake Superior, and everybody's on foot, and you have to take a ferry or a plane to get there, and it's pretty isolated, so it's not as big a deal. But the idea of some of these parks, Yosemite, Yellowstone, Glacier, Acadia, all these places are super, super busy typically. So it does feel to me that there will be a slowdown in terms of visitation.
Do we have any data on where they're cutting from specifically in the national parks? And I can certainly Google this in a second if we, or chat GPT it. Do you know anything offhand?
I don't. What I personally have heard the most of is that it's going to be mostly seasonal staff that's kept on board.
Yeah, I know. At the national park here, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is very unlike any of the ones that you have mentioned so far, Scott. It's very urban. It's in a couple of counties. It spans a couple of counties here in Northeast Ohio, right up the street from me. I go all the time. But because it's very urban and it's in Northeast Ohio and it's so close to, oh gosh, I don't know how many, 4 million people, it gets visited like crazy. It's got a scenic railway. I believe it's the only national park with a scenic railroad. And there they have mostly been making cuts to educators, so like docents, and then the staff that kind of keeps things up. So we're kind of waiting to see, are we going to see like during the first Trump administration when they had the government shutdown and you saw pictures and video from across the national parks with garbage overflowing and no one taking care of facilities? Is it going to turn into that? But I
don't know, but we're facing another possible government shutdown, or you guys
right
are.
Too, that could get piled on top of this, right? So but yeah, that's the staff that they're letting go is seasonal, but they're also letting go quite a few full-time like educators, so people that would normally run educational programs, people that would normally look after really sensitive areas, so places that were maybe part of the Portage Path that was used for Native American first people here on this continent to travel back and forth from their homes up to Lake Erie. Some of the markers for that, kind of nobody's looking out for that stuff now. So it's going to be interesting to see. And Scott, what did you gave another thing that's going to drop the attendance? I think you touched on last time. A lot of Europeans, or maybe it's not just folks from Europe, but
before he gets to that, I have the numbers if you're curious.
Okay, yeah.
Lisa, do you want to just share real quick my screen? So we have the Department of Government Efficiency under the Trump administration. I'm just reading this out for the podcast people. has implemented significant budget cuts. National Park Service scope of layoffs: approximately 1,000 national park employees have been terminated, representing about 5% of the agency's workforce. Affected parks, obviously, these are only some. Yosemite National Park in California, dozens of employees, including maintenance staff and visitor services personnel, have been laid off, leading to protests and concerns about park operations. Golden Gate National Recreation Area in California, 10 employees were dismissed, raising issues regarding the maintenance of its extensive 82,000 acres and the accommodation of 15.6 million annual visitors. Effigy Mounds National Monument in Iowa, education rangers, to your point, Greg, such as Brian Gibbs, were among those terminated, impacting educational programs and visitor engagement. Impacted departments are maintenance and operations, reductions in staff responsible for cleaning facilities, maintaining trails, and ensuring the overall upkeep of park infrastructure. Visitor services, cuts to personnel managing visitor centers, educational programs, and guided tours, potentially diminishing the quality of the visitor experience. Environmental education and conservation, layoffs of staff involved in environmental education and conservation efforts, hindering the park's educational outreach and preservation initiatives. The U.S. Forest Service, which we haven't gotten to yet, but scope of layoffs there, the agency has, well, you know what, let's just finish our conversation about national parks and we'll go to the Forest Service. So there's some context for you guys as you continue to talk about that.
It's interesting hearing that, listening to educational staff, right, getting laid off. And so they're losing programming. And what are they? They're actually, like, they need to watch Outwired. Listen, if you're out there watching, we've been preaching experiential. People want these experiences. You're laying off the wrong people, right, Scott? I mean, you
absolutely. This is where they
That
want to
comes
go.
from a lack of education, though, right? Like that comes from even as I've continued to educate myself more. Like Scott and I were having this discussion when I first pulled up this deep research report about this. I think it was last Thursday before you jumped on our follow-up call, the wrap-up call for the show. Greg, we were talking about how, like, I go to national parks and I want to see a certain thing. Like, I want to see the thing. I want to see the Grand Canyon. I want to see the falls. I want to see whatever. And so I'm not the person who's seeking out the interpretive classes and all that, but a lot of people are. And so I think it comes from a educational of, like, maybe I like nature, but I don't understand the full experience of what everybody else wants.
Yeah, it's a big part of the national park experience. And again, people seek those locations not just for the highlights, whether it's, like you said, the falls or the Grand Canyon or whatever, but the context that it's placed in. And that's where those educators come in. That's where the rangers come in. It's every time I go to one of these places, I always talk to the rangers, and the pride that they take in the place typically is always very striking, and people pick up on that. It adds to the experience. So it's one of those things that it's going to have a diminishing impact.
Well, it's what Greg was talking about. Like, I don't know if it was last week or a couple of weeks ago. I think it was on this show where you're talking about the benefits of the experiences at campgrounds and how it's better to have the guy who can go out and turn over the rocks in the river or whatever, right?
Yeah,
There's
absolutely. Absolutely. And Scott nailed it. The grandeur of it all, the beauty of it all. Sure, you're there to see that, but what's the context of it? What those rangers, those educational staff, they put all that into context for you. I can remember being a kid and going to the Badlands with my parents and looking at it and being awestruck by the beauty of it. And then I remember having a ranger tell me that the layers I was looking at were different layers of sediment, right, that were deposited or were eroded away by water. And he's explaining how it happened. And then he caps it all off. He looks at me and he says, so you're not really looking at dirt or sand. You're looking at time. Those are layers.
Oh, yeah.
Time.
That shit is mind-blowing.
And my little nerdy brain was like, oh.
Go to fucking Iceland, man.
Yeah, of course.
We went to the glaciers in Iceland, and they're like, you see that, like, black line through the glacier? That's like 90,000 years old from a volcano that erupted.
Super volcano or something, right?
And I'm like, you talk about your mind being blown, right?
Yes. Yep. So those are the experiences. That's the context that'll be missing. And so, so what does that do then if attendance goes down? Does camping at national park campgrounds drop? Because their seasonal staff is normally the people cleaning the bathrooms, turning over campsites, emptying the trash, keeping people bear aware if you're in bear country. So how much does that drop off? And does that benefit you if you're a private campground owner, because you can keep giving that experience?
Scott?
I think at least in the short term, it will benefit the private campgrounds in the area if they
Why not
recognize.
I'm just curious, why not in the long term?
That's
Because it could reverse itself, or they could change the policy, or
I think people will make adjustments over time.
okay.
They'll
Sorry,
readjust
continue,
it.
please.
But they have to kind of embrace it. It's kind of like we in outdoor hospitality benefited greatly from hotels being closed down during COVID. So a negative situation resulted in a favorable outcome for us in the industry. For some. Yeah. And I feel like it could be the same thing. For example, staffing. You could have more staff available because those folks who are normally employed there may be looking for opportunities. And as a campground owner, I would embrace the opportunity as much as possible. If these folks are there and they're in the market, I would try to fill that gap. I would try to fill the gap, the educational stuff. I would try to, and to understand who it is that's going to be there. It's going to be that national park visitor who might stay in the park, but who wants that elevated experience about, what's there. The educational stuff, I think, would be huge.
What is a realistic proximity, though? Like, because I think that, there's a lot of campground owners who hear this. I'm like, I'm the national park gateway 30 to 50 miles away is not the person who needs to hire the educational person. Right? Or are they?
It depends on the situation. 30 to 50 miles is, could be, that's under an hour drive to get there. Okay. People are typically willing to drive that far.
Yeah.
It depends on the experience too. You're gonna.
But are you saying that this educational person is focused on replacing the education that lacks at the national park? In other words, maybe a tour? Or are you suggesting this is education about nature at the campground because they can't have the education at the national park?
I would say all of the above.
Yes to all.
All right.
All of it. It's like, why not? Why not explore those options?
Well, for sure. Absolutely. I'm just trying to wonder because a lot of park owners will then take that to what's the monetary benefit? Obviously, there's a soft educational one. It's the right thing to do. It helps people, but there obviously has to be a monetary benefit if you're going to hire somebody to do this. So that's why I ask, right?
I mean, if you're going to do tours in the park, then there's obviously going to be a cost for that. Yeah, you have to charge because it's going to be an outlay.
For sure.
And if it's on site, you'd have to make that decision. Are there materials? It's like, do you want to charge a few bucks? Do you want to have it be donations? I know people are typically willing to pitch in on that stuff. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff against the wall.
Yeah. Well, let's assume for the sake of our argument that if you're close enough to a national park where, let's say you are a private campground that normally people stay at to visit the national park. Let's just put that in our bucket for purposes of the discussion, right? No matter how far you are away. If somebody's coming to you and then they're going to visit Yosemite on a regular basis, if it's a significant portion of your people, right? Then, how do you determine if that's worth it for you to hire that educator to make it up? What's the process you use to get there? I know it's case by case, right? But where do you start? Because you got to move quick.
You do, and I would say, understand that if you don't do it, someone else might. First and foremost, it's like the other is the potential for visitation across the board to decline is there.
Do you think the educator would save that? I guess the key to that is how good your marketing is of your educator.
Absolutely. It's like you have to be very proactive, and you see it as a way to enhance your revenue. And I think there's a lot of opportunity that comes with that. But the key to me is, if you're going to do it, make the decision quickly, and fill the gap before someone else does or everyone doesn't, and people start going somewhere else. That's to me, people. A lot of these people go to the national parks. It's a lifetime trip. It's a bucket list trip for them. So they don't want to go there and have a half-assed experience. They, it's like if they're gonna, if that's the case, they're gonna go some other time. They're gonna do something else. So, it needs to be meaningful for them. And again, the marketing part of it, I think it's a good observation, because that's where you could really.
People have to know, right? Like, yeah, you can get to the national park and then you can say like, I'm going to change my behavior or whatever else. Or like, if you're coming from far away, maybe you're already changing your behavior. There's a percentage of people that are interested in education. There's a percentage of people who are just interested in seeing the place, right? I don't know what those percentages are. I have no data on that. We didn't run that as part of our report. But yeah, like, and then I think this leads into a larger conversation. I want to touch on the Forestry Service numbers for a second before we do this, and then let you guys finish your thoughts, of course. I want to talk about privatization potential, right? In general, we've talked about that, but like, what else do we have to add to the national? Because I think this is important to set the context for them, right? So what else can you do besides, we talked about educators, what else can you do to help this? Like, let's assume this is 10% as bad as we think it might get from a cleanliness of the national park standpoint, from an availability of educators, from an operating hours of visitor centers. Let's assume that it's 10% as bad. Let's just give the Trump administration the benefit of the doubt. They've already reversed the 5,000 seasonal workers. Things are still obviously going to be down, and I think worse than they were last year. But like, what else do you replace? What else can you supplement that may not exist? Because you can't, obviously, you're not going to go hire somebody to clean the park, right? So what else can you do at your private campground?
I think you can just be ready. There's going to be a lag, because let's face it, although I say most, but Scott, you have really good data that the booking window is shortening, right? People want to make that booking decision in a much shorter window. But when it comes to national park campgrounds, I don't think that happens as much. And you, Scott, you correct me if I'm wrong, but those campgrounds are so difficult in most cases. You take a park like Big Bend, it takes what feels like a millennia to get to Big Bend. And there are 3 campgrounds in that park. And I'm sure at certain times of the year they get close to full, but very, very few people visit that park compared to like 13 million go to the Great Smoky Mountains. And I forget how many million go to Yellowstone and Yosemite, all the big ones. Those campgrounds are booked out probably for the whole summer already. But when that first holiday weekend hits and those stories come out, if they come out, let's say it's only 10% as bad, maybe they don't, but if the stories start coming out and the news starts breaking about the terrible experiences that happen and the condition of the campgrounds, and there is no one around, to Scott's point, to make people feel comfortable and safe.
Right. And even if they reverse it, then that's what I'm saying. Even if you get to only 10% down because they reverse it, the media is still out there.
Yes. And people are having those experiences maybe. So that's when maybe the private campgrounds around, maybe they don't feel it until June or July, when people go, you know what, I've seen enough of these stories. I'm maybe going to cancel my stay at the national park campground and look at some of these private ones around it. And maybe that's when the private park owners have to be, just, pure speculation.
How do you get in front of that, right? Like, because there's going to be a segment of people who say, I want to cancel my national park campground stay and then stay at a private campground because I really still want to come to the campground. But if there's a bunch of bad press that says this place is shit, there's trash all over the place and everything else, not just in the campground, but in the park, then you get somebody who's considering canceling the entire thing and not even coming to the national park, let alone has then the ability to consider the private park versus the public park. So how do you insert yourself? And I know maybe that's a marketing question, right? But
I was just going to say, this might be up your alley. You might be asking your own question.
Like, it's interesting. Like, I mean, my go-to off the top of my head, like we were having a conversation with a client earlier about stealing business from competitors and doing geofencing campaigns. Maybe you do a geofencing campaign like around the park and run an ad that says like, only if it gets bad, right? Maybe, right? But you run that ad that says like, looking for a clean place to spend the night or something. That doesn't still solve the people that are coming from further away. So it would be interesting to see if social media has there used to be and I just say use because I have people who do the Facebook ads for me now, but there used to be a way to indicate to target audiences who were traveling or considering right, to what Meta knows about them. And I imagine those audiences must still exist. I don't know one would imagine that at least for the big parks that you'd be able to target that. So that would be the audience I would go after, like looking for a clean place to stay. And honestly, you should be going after that anyway.
Yeah, right.
Like if you're near a national park.
Yep.
But targeting messaging, right? Like we're telling these people for the competitors, don't just run an ad for you, run an ad for like a discount special, say like you're missing out on the best luxury RV resort near where you're already at type thing. Targeted messaging for them, targeted messaging for the whatever might or might not happen at the national parks.
And does your data that talks about the shortened booking window, Scott, does it inform any of that decision making by those folks as you know relates to the way Brian just laid that out?
Yeah, pretty. It's what we see a lot of is that people still want to have that shortened, that shortened window just to have the more spontaneous experience, but they typically back out of it, and they don't shorten the booking window as much if they are going to one of the major destinations. So, but one way you can lengthen that is what Brian said, is like kind of create the demand, the idea that this is a desirable place and you better book now. So obviously
with a cancellation policy that locks them in. Like I'm still amazed that people don't do what hotels do, prepay in advance, non-refundable. But
a lot of parks do.
You're still in danger of the narrative of the national park is shit and then being canceled on later, right?
Yeah.
With what you just said, Scott. But please continue.
Right. No, I agree. There's you should have a fairly strict policy because the demand could be very high, and that's also a good way to create demand. Is to do that and say we have a pretty strict cancellation policy because we're in a place where we're going to have a ton of visitors but we're going to do this for you and it's going to be great. But it's one of those things where people they'll respond to it, and most people are reasonable. I think in all the research I've ever done on the whole cancellation thing, what like 90% of the people say is, whatever your cancellation policy is, just make sure it's very clear up front.
Yeah,
so I know
set expectations.
Yeah, that's it. They just want to know, and no secrets, nothing hidden, whatever, and maybe offer a little flexibility in case something weird happens. But that's other than that, I think the opportunity is there. But
so we have economic importance, national park tourism. I'm just reading from our sheet. Supports over $55.6 billion in economic output, underscoring how changes in public lands management can ripple through local economies. So obviously, like this is an impact on the local towns surrounding the National Park Service too, all the small businesses and the small hotels and like the Marriotts can weather this stuff. But summer 2025 outlook forecasted to be challenging with potential overcrowding, longer wait times, and reduced on-site services, which we talked about at iconic parks like Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon. Obviously, can't even remember the name of the Tennessee park, even though I've been there like 10 times.
Okay,
yeah.
So future scenarios, best case, partial restoration of essential services through public backlash and adaptive partnerships, which we'll talk about a little bit. What does that partnership potentially look like? Moderate is a new normal of lean operations relying on digital management and private partnerships. So everything else we've kind of touched on already from those. Oh, never mind. I'm not scrolling far enough. But either way, so it does give state specific examples here. Do we want to hear this real quick or no? This is from our original, the talking points that I sent you guys. Sure. So California, heavy impact on parks like Yosemite and Joshua Tree with local interventions possibly mitigating service gaps. Utah, Mighty Five RV parks, Zion, Bryce, Arches, Canyonlands, and Capitol Reef may expand reservation systems amid high visitation pressures. Wyoming, political moves hint at increased state involvement for Yellowstone and Grand Teton amid staffing cuts. Arizona, Grand Canyon could see fewer shuttles and longer waits, prompting local solutions like community-run shuttles. And North Carolina, Tennessee, the Great Smoky Mountains, the nation's most visited park, sorry, I forgot your name, face significant challenges that may spur local fee programs and volunteer initiatives. That's what I got. So Like, I mean, but yeah, so you take advantage of this on a case by case basis. You got to think about what you can do. I think the first step is to understand who your audience is at the national park you're near. Like, because you need to understand what that split is between how many people are coming for education and how many people are just coming to see it and turn around and go home, and how many people are coming to hike for a couple days.
Yep.
And right. And then you kind of have a foundation for like, all right, if I see this start to happen, if I see, or maybe I just do this in advance, but if I see this start to happen, then my plan is like I hire an educator. I have somebody who I've already talked to who like, right, would love to come do this on the side or on a weekend or, whatever. Or I have a shuttle service lined up, or so prep for it, but maybe don't pull the trigger is what our advice is. Or pull the trigger.
I think that's fair to say. I think it's prep for it, and also see if you can reach, there's going to be a whole segment of people that are going to see these cuts and say, you know what, I'm canceling the trip this year. I'm going to wait till this chaos passes. And even some of the private campgrounds that are used to having high traffic because the national parks are already full, because the parks since COVID have been, not all of them, but many of them, especially the popular ones, they were overwhelmed even with the staff they had, even not inside the campground, just at parking lots and pit toilets along the way. To some of the photos that I saw of the Laurel Falls Trail stands out to me because I've hiked that I don't know how many times as a kid and as a young adult in the Smoky Mountains. You have to make reservations now on an app to hike that. You have to make reservations for a parking spot to get into hiking.
Pass.
And so there's lots of people that are going to say, you know what, it was already like that post-COVID. Now there's this, I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm just going to stay home. So that's another layer of this, if we're peeling the onion back, right? To say, how do I reach those people? Hey, don't be afraid. Come to my park. It's not the national park, but damn it, we're closed. And you can still get in for a day, drive through. And I mean, I went to, at the glamping show, I was there with clients and they said, we don't want to be at the glamping show anymore. We want you to take us to Rocky Mountain National Park so we can go hiking. And I was like, damn, that stinks. I really wanted to sit in on this next session, but if you guys insist, that's what we'll do. We got to the park. There was a line of about 30 cars trying to get in, and there were 3 roads that we could not turn down without a reservation. This is in October, right? Now, granted, this is big time for them because elk are bugling and we saw them. Incredible. But that experience has already kind of soured people on it. Now they wonder what's going to happen this year. There's going to be a lot of people that maybe think they're going to sit it out. So maybe that's
me hard pass. Like, right. I go like,
okay.
And it's a lot more open up here in Canada.
A lot less people. You guys have less than the population of California in the entire
right, but
country.
I don't mean that open. I mean what I'm saying is like there's a lot more hiking trails you can go on here that are less restricted. Like a lot of the stuff you go not just from a reservations basis, but from what really annoys me and I'm not like a big huge 20K hiker, right? But I'll go hiking for a couple miles and to see like a really nice waterfall. But when I get to that waterfall, you better not have a fence up that like I can only see that waterfall from like 600 feet away. Are you joking? Like I understand safety, but like, come on, I want to go get my feet in that water. I want to stand up right next to it. And so as you start to modernize more of these trails with both a reservation process and because of overcrowding, and I'm not saying they're doing it wrong, it's a necessity in some of these places, right?
Yep. Because we're loving
like when I went to Iceland, that was amazing. Like I don't know what the names of the waterfalls were. I can't remember like most of them anymore. Well, I could never pronounce them, but like, I mean, we went to waterfalls that were, I mean, they must have been 2,000 feet high or more. Like, and like, I don't know, 500, 600 feet wide. Like, and you could literally walk up to the bottom of it and there's no gate and there's no ranger and there's no anything. And like, that is epic to me. And I think there are a lot of people who are like that. And the more that they can't connect with nature, either because of that or because of crowding or reservations or what you're talking about, that's going to turn them off from the national park experience or perhaps drive them towards smaller ones, which is good if that is the case. Not for the private campground outside of the big one, but good for the smaller national park.
Yeah. So can the private parks capitalize and try to coax those people out that are thinking, you know
I
what,
don't.
we
How
might
do you
just sit
do
this one
that
out.
though? Like,
Well,
how do
you're
you
the
do it for the
marketing dude.
people
What are
who
you
are like?
asking me for?
how do you do that though for the people like we just talked about, for the people who don't want to deal with it, who already are frustrated because of what you talked about, I can't turn down the roads. How do you combat that as a private campground?
Yeah, I don't know. You don't combat that, but can you coax the ones who are thinking about sitting it out? Can you coax them out to come to your place by, I don't know, pointing out the parts of the park that aren't so heavily restricted? Yes, you can't go to the super popular waterfall where everybody wants to go, but my goodness, there's, 500,000 acres out here, guys. There's all kinds of space. You can try these alternative trails and you can try these alternative sites where you don't need reservations and the crowds don't normally gather because, I mean, I don't know too many people want to go out in nature, hit a waterfall or a trail and be like, oh look, we're hiking with 700 of our best friends today. Like, people do want to kind of experience it. There's a social aspect, but nobody wants an urban trail. That's not what you go to a national park for. Would you agree to that, Scott? Like,
I mean,
you're an
some people do,
outdoorsman,
to be
right?
clear, but like, yes, I agree with you. Like, that's not.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you don't want a disco, right?
It's the difference between that person who wants to see a site like Brian, which is fine,
Mm-hmm.
and versus those who like they want to maybe have something more immersive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hey, now come on! I'm immersive with the waterfall. I just don't care about seeing the mushrooms on the side and all the things, right? Like, they're nice to look at. It's not my jam for going there. But continue.
So I was thinking of this is quite a while back now, in the 90s, the late 90s, when we had the government shutdown, and my friends and I, we were in the Four Corners area in southern Utah, and we were actually due to stay. We were going to stay at Zion, and then we were going to hike a place called Buckskin Gulch, which is a slot canyon, one of the more picturesque slot canyons there is. And we literally got to the trailhead, and there was a ranger there tacking a note on the trailhead sign that says closed. And we're like, so what do we do? And the ranger goes, you got a map? And we got our map, and he goes, well, here, these are places that they're actual trails. They're places to go. They're not in BLM land. They're not regulated. They're not in the national park. He goes, if you want to have the Zion experience, here, take this trail, this trail, this trail. You'll get up on the ridge and you'll have
Go off the beaten
the
path.
Zion experience. And they said, if you want the Slot Canyon, here's one you can go to. No one goes there. And anyway, we had the best trip ever because we went to these places. We didn't see other people at all.
That's awesome.
It was due to this person, and in this case,
Which may or may not be there.
Yeah.
Right. Which was going to take me to my next point, which is, and as a private campground owner, find that person who knows these trails.
Yep, there you have it.
Knows this stuff. Because there you take, a lemon and make lemonade out of it. And, it's that opportunity. And, to still get people to show up. Because...
And this doesn't have to be expensive, right? If you live near a national park, there is probably a better than average chance that there is some kind of person running from the law that's a criminal, that's hiding out in the woods, that desperately needs some kind of income that you could probably hire to take these people safely into the woods. Is that a bad recommendation? Are we only giving good recommendations here?
Only if you're trying to add the word safely the way you did. I think
Not
outside of that person's probably fine. But
I did do the air quotes, to be fair. Like, just
yeah, but some people are just listening to the podcast. You might have to say air quote.
That's true. Okay, that's true.
You might have to say air quote. But honestly, look at the little work that the Brain Trust of Outwired here just did. We just came up with it. So find your marketing message for the national park experience without all the BS and the crowds and the reservations. We are here, and here are these trails. Here are these experiences.
You want to hear from our fourth host, ChatGPT?
The blunder honkus thing?
No,
sure.
Well, okay, he's our fifth host, but no,
the
fourth host, ChatGPT. I asked while you guys were talking what a private campground should do.
Yep.
Lisa, do you want to share real quick? So for a private campground near a national park, marketing should highlight how it provides a better experience than Staying inside the park, we talked about that. Mitigate the frustration. So position the campground as a sanctuary away from the chaos. Use language like escape the crowds, stay in nature, or your private getaway to the national park to emphasize peace and exclusivity. Address frustrations up front. Tired of fighting for parking and dealing with sold out campgrounds? Stay with us for a stress free, nature filled experience. Tactics or social media and website banners showing spacious campsites versus crowded national park campgrounds. Testimonials from campers who enjoyed fewer crowds and a relaxed atmosphere. What do you think about that one first?
It's great. It's everything we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's right on it.
Okay. Offer park workarounds to solve common visitor frustrations. Messaging strategy: frame the campground as a smarter way to enjoy the park. Skip the headache, stay here, and explore on your own terms. Tactics: shuttle service. Partner with a local tour operator or provide early morning shuttle service to get guests into the park before parking lots fill up. I'm sure the criminal would sneak them in overnight. That would be a really unique, like, stargazing package too, right?
Air quotes.
Air quotes, yes, right. I did do the air quotes unconsciously, did I? Because I knew I was full of shit when I said that. Exclusive local trails guide. Create a PDF map with lesser known trails to Scott's Point near the campground that are just as beautiful but less crowded. Go talk to the guy hammering in the sign before he, God forbid, gets laid off. And heck, like, offer him a job.
Yep. Poach.
Like, yeah, poach him. I mean, because his job is uncertain right now. Go now. Flexible booking. Unlike the park's rigid reservation system, offer easy last-minute booking and extended stays. We're all on board with that stuff? Any comments?
Yeah, that's good. That's all.
It is.
We hit upon most of that stuff.
Yeah.
At some level.
Create unique experiences that the park can't offer. Messaging strategy is to emphasize experiences only available at the private campground, making it worth staying there. Nighttime activities: host stargazing events with telescopes. National parks close at night for most visitors. Offer campfire storytelling sessions or live acoustic music. On-site adventure rentals. Offer bike rentals, kayak rentals, or guided excursions to lesser known nature areas. Camp and relax packages. Sell bundles that include firewood, s'mores kits, and hammocks. Marketed as a stress-free camping experience. All good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Leverage the, I don't know how many of these are. It looks like it's almost done on the scrolling thing on the side. But these are good. Leverage the remote but connected advantage. Messaging strategy: some visitors want to unplug while others need connectivity. Offer both. Position it as a choice. Stay off the grid or stay connected. Your choice. That's nice.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. Tech-free zones. Encourage relaxation with designated tech-free camping areas. I feel like most campgrounds can do that, right? Just like whatever your Wi-Fi coverage is terrible, it's tech-free.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Most parks struggle with Wi-Fi anyway. Now just call it a tech-free
We're not
zone.
actually struggling. This is intentionally tech-free.
But now you've got a way to take your. We have poor reception over here. No, that's our tech-free zone. That's where you're camping. You're in the tech-free zone.
Yeah. Hi. You didn't ask for that. There was a box check. You should have checked your reservation. High-speed Wi-Fi for digital nomads. We talked about it. Yeah. Address safety and convenience concerns. Messaging strategy: stay safe, stay comfortable, and still enjoy the park. 24/7 security and clean facilities. Market the safety of a private campground. We talked about that. Compared to the sometimes unpredictable conditions inside national park campgrounds. Campground store is stock essential items: firewood, ice, snacks, gear. Maybe also passes to the national park, and even some souvenirs if you could maybe get a partnership going with that, right? To allow them to not have to stand in line to buy the souvenirs or stand in line to buy the passes or whatever else. A package online with your reservations if your reservation system allows it, right? Stay at the campground and here we already have your park tickets for you. Campground stores, we already talked about that. Target the right audience with strategic advertising. Facebook and Instagram ads. Target users searching for camping near national park name. I don't know if that's good advice for Facebook, but that's good advice for Google. Google ads run PPC ads for searches like where to stay near park name or national park camping alternative, or even just target the name of the state park, because then you can run an ad at the top that says, like, alternative and all the things we're talking about. Influencers partnerships. Sponsor outdoor vloggers who focus on stress-free travel. And special offers to pull visitors away from park campgrounds. First-time guest discount. First-time visitors get 10% off plus free firewood bundle. I would say maybe differentiate yourself with like a 15% off. There's so many places you get 10% off everything now.
Yep.
And you're already more expensive probably than the national park campground is, right?
Yep.
Referral program, bring a friend and you both get a free night. Loyalty program, stay 3 nights, get the 4th night free. By addressing frustrations directly and offering a superior experience, the campground can successfully pull visitors away from national park campgrounds and keep them coming back. There you go.
Yep.
For
And
toast.
I wouldn't want to take this down another lane, another rabbit hole, because we got
Do
other
it.
stuff to cover. But if anyone is out there listening to this, all of that stuff that Brian just read off, every one of them. Now, all right, let me preface this with something. Some state parks, their state park campgrounds are amazing. Service, quality, cleanliness.
Kentucky, Florida.
There are some amazing ones out there, but they generally don't provide a lot of the higher end experiences, or even some of the, like, if you want a quiet nighttime, you might be better off at a private park where somebody may actually be patrolling that. Again, some of them do, not all of them do. It's very hit and miss. It can be one park fine, the next park not so fine. Those campaigns that Brian just went down, everything he just went down can work for you. If you are near a state park and you think you're losing to that state park because it's full every weekend and you're not, all of those things he just touched on, you can take from national park and apply to state park and would work for you just as well, because you can supply those things in a lot of cases much better than a state park campground can. Much better.
So I think that's maybe our cue to pivot to privatization, because right now you can do that much better.
Pivoting.
Obviously, we've heard all the complaints in the Facebook groups over the years. What are you doing?
I'm pivoting. I just pivoted. There we go.
Oh.
I completed a pivot.
That was, is a pivot a full circle? Do we need to ask ChatGPT this? Because now I'm curious.
We don't. No,
is a pivot a full circle? Is it really?
Nobody wants to know that.
All right. Like I do. I'm going to Google it or ChatGPT.
It depends on the context. In many cases, would be more like a 180.
All right.
And
actually,
that's what my point is.
I'll tell you, I am much better looking for.
You should have your back to the show for the rest of the show now until we pivot again. Yeah. Just talk very loud because your mic may not.
I got my headset in.
Your neckline's really interesting. It looks like kind of like a V. Do you do that on purpose?
No, I don't ever get to see it, so I don't know what's going on back there. My
barber like a little V or something. I don't know. What does that look like? It looks like
the Eddie Munster peak thing.
Oh, I got it's like an inverted W. I don't know what that is, but it's hopefully it's not too disturbing for the at-home viewers.
It is not a full circle. Lisa looked it up for us.
Lisa chiming in from off camera.
Shifting in a new direction or even reversing course. Lisa looked it up. I didn't tell her to. She did it on her own accord. You have to take that.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, privatizing campgrounds or privatizing so there's two chains of thought I want to talk about here, right? One, I want to talk about the less perhaps graver threat that might happen sooner rather than later. Not a graver threat, because the privatizing of the campgrounds is perhaps a greater threat. But what about is there a chance that, given the affinity of what we view the Trump administration to be more business friendly, is there a chance that they start to privatize some of the services that they're laying off, that they bring in outside companies to provide educational experts, that they bring in outside vendors to clean the national parks? Is that something that could happen as soon as this year that negates some of what we're talking about?
My view is that for certain things, the national parks already have some private concessionaires in the parks, but for some of those functions, I would say that's a possibility. I think to bring in the talent to replace the rangers and the educational components and such would be probably more difficult. And honestly,
only if the private company can't immediately hire the people they just laid off from the government.
Well, they could. I guess my question then is kind of like, does that make sense in the context of it was done in the first place to save money? And so now if it's privatized, wouldn't it might cost more to hire these people? Because they don't make much money now. So that's just my kind of negative part of that kind of stuff. I could see it maybe for maintenance and, you know, cleaning stuff up and stuff like that. Some of the other stuff, I'm a little uncertain of how that might work, in terms of it being, you know, feasible, because, you know, the umbrella over all this, in terms of privatization, is that will the costs go up for the visitor? Because, you know, now things are priced in a way so that, you know, the parks are for everyone, so they try to keep costs down, and they try to keep it, you know, more reachable and accessible for everyone. Thus, so, and that's always one of the reasons there's such pushback when privatization comes up, because to the guest, it's like, are my costs going to go up? Am I going to no longer do this? Are they going to take a park or a campground inside the park and take all those tent sites and make them RV sites? You know, so now the tenter doesn't, you know what I mean? This is devil's advocate a little bit here, but those are real conversations that were had, because this conversation comes up every few years. And I was part of the conversation several years ago when this was talked about seriously then. So that's just kind of my kind of overview of that topic.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, because it's so early in this that we don't know what the ultimate goal is here. Because I think, and again, staying away from politics and staying away from what side we're landing on here, I think that just understanding the business mindset of some of these people who are involved in this process, and I'm not saying it gets granular down to the national parks yet, right? But I can easily envision a scenario where there's more tech brought into the national parks to replace some of the workers, where there is a push toward raising rates at the national parks. And maybe an excuse for that is, now that we've privatized and brought in people to do these services, these things are not being provided by the government anymore. And so that's their default excuse for raising rates at national parks to cover the added expenses of privatization and also make more money for the government. So then not also you're saving money, but you're making money, if that makes sense. So I don't know how quickly that gets implemented, or even if it ever does, but I think there's probably some kind of thought process behind this to long-term make this a more profitable venture. And I'm not saying I think it's the wrong way to go for the National Park Service. So there, I did say that. But I'm not saying like that, that's realistic, right? Like if they were all about deficit reduction, air quotes, whatever.
Quotes.
Like it is deficit reduction with it, right? We're staying away from politics still. But that's a feasible thing that somebody would have a plan to. I'm not saying it's there, but isn't that a thing that could happen?
I suppose it could, but I kind of tend to lean towards Scott's line of thinking. If you're going to privatize this stuff, it's going to get more expensive. So then maybe that is, as you point out, maybe that is the way. That's the that's the reason that they use to raise the prices in the national park.
Which works in the favor of private campgrounds if you raise campground rates inside national parks, right?
It does, but it gets away from the purpose and the mission of the national park. That lands.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea at all.
I know.
Yeah.
Because from the, I mean, just looking at it, what did you say? 55.6 billion in economic output by the national parks. So to try to cut $10 billion from the National Park Service by laying people out, so to try to cut 10 from something that generates 55 seems strange from an economic view of it. But again, staying out of it, right? Staying out of the why. I don't know. I can't find a way that it makes sense, honestly.
But that is a conclusion that we could, not saying we're, again, I am against raising prices in national parks. Right. We should not do that, all the things. But that could be one of the train of thoughts where they're going. Could be. Yeah, potentially could be. Because the math could add up if they're going to take that path.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if that happens, my view is that a lot of things would probably be scaled back for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
just like maybe the number of campgrounds might decline. The types of services that are available within the park might decline. There might be less. There might be areas closed off.
Why close if the campgrounds are already sold out? And I know we're going to get into privatizing in a second of those, but if they're already sold out, why scale them down? Or are you just talking about right now without privatization because there's no staff?
Because of staffing and costs.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, because a lot of those costs, a lot of times are supported by, there's a lot of those parks that might be sold out certain times and certain days of the year, but there's a lot of those parks and campgrounds within the parks that probably people would be surprised to learn operate in the red, despite having low staff, we have a number of state parks here in Ohio that I think if Ohioans learned how many of them were just being propped up by their tax dollars every year and kept open, but operated in the red, they would probably be pretty upset, right? Because the very small percentage of Ohioans use those parks. They would probably want to see them closed, or potentially, here's the pivot, privatized, right? Turned over to somebody who in the private industry might be able to make it work because they're putting their own money into it, not the taxpayers' money. So I think that's where I think Scott's right, because if you take a lot of those smaller ones that maybe don't get the traffic of the bigger national parks or the campgrounds that are booked out all the time instead of just on holiday weekends, those little national park campgrounds, they're going to close. They're not going to be able to stay open because they're not going to be able to sustain unless you're propping them up somehow or another.
Before we get to privatizing campgrounds, two things. One is you ask a question to Scott about Europe that I want to make sure he touches on. Two is I want to just briefly go over these Forest Service numbers too, if you guys are interested in these.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So and this comes from the same place on ChatGPT or whatever. Scope of layoffs for the U.S. Forest Service. The agency has dismissed approximately 3,400 employees, accounting for about 10% of its workforce. Do these people have, and maybe you guys know this, do these people have anything to do with preventing wildfires? Because I feel like they do.
Depends on who they're laying off in the Forest Service, but Forest Service definitely has that as
Is
part
the
of the
department that would control some of that, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We do all the coordination, all that.
Yep.
Well, here we go. See, I didn't even read far enough. Affected areas, Northern California forests. Significant staff reductions have raised concerns about wildfire prevention and maintenance of recreational areas. Oregon forests, over 450 employees were laid off, potentially impacting wildfire prevention efforts and the upkeep of recreational sites. Colorado public lands, layoffs have sparked concerns about the state's economy and wildfire safety, given the reduced capacity for forest management and emergency response. Impacted departments, wildfire prevention and response. Staff cuts in this area may lead to increased vulnerability to wildfires due to fewer personnel available for fire mitigation and emergency response. Recreational management, reductions in staff overseeing campgrounds, trails, and visitor services could result in decreased access and maintenance of recreational facilities. And conservation and land management, fewer employees dedicated to conservation projects and sustainable land management practices, potentially affecting environmental preservation efforts. Now, obviously, this is bad for Forest Service places, right? But the big thing that sticks out to me here is wildfires. You guys?
Yeah, it's a huge issue, and especially in the areas out west. I mean, we saw what's happened. We see what happens in Canada as well. But it's the mitigation efforts, and something that's really not mentioned there too is that if your staffing is scaled back enough, you're not going to have the people on foot, the patrols, to find these before they really get going.
Yep.
So what you risk then is, fires getting out of control. More of them getting out of control before they're found. So that staff presence. I mean, we see how bad it is right now, but I think it gets exponentially worse if you don't have people monitoring that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a very long-term process. I mean, it's not like you just go out and go, oh, look, fire loading, we need to clear this brush up. Okay, cool, we're all done. We go back. That takes a lot of people, a lot of time, even with the technology available to them with drones and satellite imagery.
Well, so let's play devil's advocate then, though. Does that mean that we can get through 2025 without a difference? And it hits in 2026?
If I'm
Specifically
right,
for wildfire
maybe,
prevention.
but I'm not right very often, so maybe. I don't know. That's a really good point. That's a great question. It's a really good question.
I'm sorry. I was
Either
just
way,
asking
I mean,
ChatGPT
all
to
of this
put-
stuff we're talking about, I guess, technically, right, pays dividends down the road, whether they be positive or negative dividends. It is that lag we talked about a little bit earlier, right? It's going to take time for all of
Yeah.
this stuff to be felt.
Yeah.
And Forest Service campgrounds are a completely separate experience from what we were talking about in National Park. You're talking about most of the time dirt sites, pit toilets, one place to get water, and nobody around. No rangers, no cell phone signal, nothing. So a
But those
completely
people aren't
different.
coming to your private campground, mostly, because
Maybe they will now,
it's
but
such a price gap.
yes. Yep.
So that's interesting. Like I don't even know. That's almost like an RV resort going after a tent camper.
Yeah.
Do
It's
you
a
want
completely
to do
different
that?
experience. But I mean, to be sure, there are a lot of private campgrounds out there that do still cater to a more or provide a more rustic camping experience. So there are parks out there that could capitalize on that.
For sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying by default. Right?
Yeah, by default, probably not. Those folks
Okay.
are. That's where I camp. I love those
I would love them if I could afford an RV.
dirt sites. No, I'm talking. Bring the tent camp, throw it in the car. But that's
I don't even know if I can
tent
afford
camper's
a tent.
paradise. Forest Service.
Like
Yeah.
you guys said, I couldn't get a sponsor for the show, so I don't know if I can afford a tent. But I'm gonna try. Scott, Europe.
Yeah, there's European visitation to our national parks and public lands is pretty high. There's
Oh my
some
God.
organizations.
Greg's power went out. Oh, sorry. Okay, he's back.
Some organizations, double-digit, percentages of their customers, their guests, are from Europe. So it's a big chunk, and my view is that they're probably going to stay home because of.
Well, and I will say this before you even touch on the national parks, right? All this stuff that we talked about in the beginning, maybe I talked about it on Fireside Chats. The 25% of or 72% of what are you doing, Greg?
I have no idea. My computer just started doing all my sound. You guys sound completely different. I don't know what happened. Something.
Okay,
I think I might have
Greg
just been
got
hacked.
hacked.
I think I might have just been hacked.
Okay, that was like it looked like. Didn't it look like it was a piece of paper in front of his camera?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay,
This
that was
is
creepy then.
Very
That
strange.
was really creepy.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No,
Should
but I'm going
we-
to try pivoting again.
To the ghosts, or okay, all right.
So
What we talked about on the Fireside Chat show, and I don't think I brought it up at the beginning of the show, is there's a bunch of people in the Facebook groups of the owners, who are saying like my Canadian reservations are down 72% was a headline I heard. We've seen anecdotal evidence from up here, just stories in the Canadian media. For WestJet has seen like bookings to the U.S. and so has Air Canada drop like literally overnight by 25%. Bunch of cancellations coming in. People aren't coming to the States anymore. And that's both because of the Canadian dollar, but more recently, that big, huge shift has been because of the sentiment exhibited toward our economy from the United States economy, whether you agree with it or not. It is what is happening. And so there's a whole narrative here about reciprocal tariffs. And so I want you to finish your thoughts, Scott, and get into that stuff. But also, like when you're talking about people staying home, he's talking about slapping reciprocal tariffs on the entire world, including Europe, which is all these people who we were just talking about are going to come over here. So take that and run with it, Scott.
Yeah, the overall, when you have this much, I'm going to call it instability because it does feel really unstable right now.
Yes, no matter which way you lean politically, it's
Right.
unstable.
Like we don't know what a lot of these outcomes are going to be. People stay home. They're going to stay home. It's sometimes the economy, some of that stuff you can overcome that a little bit. People will cut back a little bit, but people don't like instability. They don't like that. I'm going to call it stress. It's a stressor.
That's been proven with the presidential elections for how many years in a row?
Right. So what you're going to have is the same thing. So on top of all this, regardless of the financial impact, we see consumer sentiment is taking a dive right now. If you live in Europe, would you spend thousands of dollars, and weeks of your vacation time to come over here and not know what you're going to be able to do?
And their euro goes less further than it did before. It's much closer to the US dollar.
So people are going to stay home. And say that gets cut by a percentage, if you are a business in hospitality that relies on the European dollar to, say it's 10% of your business, which in the summertime could be very easy to achieve. Are you willing to I don't want to say willing, but you potentially are going to take that hit. Your business right there, just from that factor alone, is going to decline by a few percentage points. And that, a lot of small business, again, running on the margins, there's going to be, it's going to have a dramatic impact. And, I don't even know what to follow that up with.
I don't know, but I'm asking the chat as O3 Mini right now, let's say if 10% less visitors came to the United States from Europe who would otherwise stay at private campgrounds near national parks, what is the potential revenue loss in 2025 for private campgrounds? I don't know if it's going to give me a good answer. Oh, here we go. I don't know if this is a good answer. It didn't search the internet, so just be aware of this, right? Assumption number one, assume that private campgrounds near national parks attract about 500,000 European visitor stays annually. Does that make sense, Scott?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Assumption number two is suppose the average European visitor stays for 3 nights at roughly $100 per night, totaling about $300 per stay. I think it's probably longer than that, isn't it? Like if you're coming all the way from Europe?
A lot of times, they're pretty mobile.
Okay.
They're pretty mobile.
Under these assumptions, but they would stay. Well, that's spending per stay, I guess. Okay, so
yeah, might be a little high.
So they're not. Yeah. So visitor stays. So 500,000 It's not European visitors that are 500,000. It's 500,000 visitor stays. So it could be 250,000 European visitors staying 2 stays. Is what we could have. Just making up something or anything in between, right? Okay, so under these assumptions, European visitors generate approximately 500,000 times $300 equals $150 million in revenue annually for these campgrounds. The impact of a 10% decline in European visitors means 50,000 fewer stays. This results in a revenue loss of $15 million in 2025. That's just 10% of people from Europe alone. So we'll continue on your thought. I'm going to ask some other questions.
I think the decline will be less. I think the spend.
You think it'll be less? Like even if he does reciprocal tariffs?
Oh, I think it'll if he does reciprocal tariffs, it's going to be the decline is going to be much greater.
Okay, but without the reciprocal tariffs, you think it'll be less than 10%?
No, I think.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misheard you then. I thought that's what you said. I apologize.
It'll still be at least 10%.
Okay.
I think that's pretty conservative. I think the average daily spend is closer to $200. Yeah. And you're looking at a substantial impact, and that is just a fraction of what we're looking at in terms of the overall impact. It doesn't even include some of the other parts of the local economies and the RV industry, the RV rental industry. They rely. I've talked to many European people. It's pretty funny what they'll do. For example, I talked to this one couple. They flew to California and bought a camper van, and they took a cross-country trip, ended up in New York, and sold the camper van and flew back home. And they said that's what a lot of people do. It was pretty common. So that kind of, I don't know, they're spending a lot of money here, and this year I think it's not going to be that great.
Yep, and I think you're right about the rental market, especially. That's interesting. The buy it and sell it. aspect. That seems like a lot of work, but why not, right? If you're going to be here for 3 weeks or a month or something, probably works out to be less than it does to rent one, because RV rental's expensive.
They are. They are.
They.
I read somewhere that outdoorsy, 25% of their business is national parks.
Yep. Jen Young came out.
European visitors from
Yep.
visiting national parks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge.
It is.
So
And
yeah,
I can go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so a business like that, when you're looking at the potential hit, it's a double hit. National parks, a huge percentage of their business is people renting to go to the national parks, and
Yep.
then the European guest, it's like that's doubling up. I mean, these folks are gonna have to revise their financials this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I pass a Cruise America, you can't tell when you pass somebody who's gotten one from RV Share or Outdoorsy, but when you pass a Cruise America rig, you cannot miss it. It's
Right.
It is a driving billboard. And I'll tell you what, if I'm in a campground and there's 5 of those things in there, 3 of those people are not from the United States.
Yep.
They're renting from someplace else. Easy 3 out of 5. And that's going to drop.
And it's already 10% tariffs on China. We see a lot of visitors from China.
Oh yeah, a lot of folks from China and Japan visit our national parks as well. Yep, absolutely.
I'm still running these numbers, but yeah, Japan is another thing their economy is not doing. Okay, so let's see. I told it to give me baseline assumptions. Here's what I said. Let's say the average daily spend is closer to 200, like you said, Scott. And then I ask it for the numbers for 20% and 30%, just because I'm lazy. And then what you estimate if President Trump implements tariffs on Europe and their euro is close to even with the US dollar, which is, I think we can all agree, a likely scenario, assuming he keeps his word.
Mm-hmm.
So our baseline assumption is $200 per stay, 300,000 annual visitor stays, total baseline revenue $60 million from, Europe is the 500,000, each spending $200 a stay, total baseline revenue is 100 million. Canada is 300,000 annual visitor stay, each spending $200 a stay. Total baseline revenue is $60 million.
That should be that it shouldn't be per stay. It should be per day.
Per day.
$200 per day?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you're talking economic impact overall per day, right? Not
$200
necessarily, because
per day. Okay, I did run it that way. I'm sorry. So let's let this finish a second. Somebody can talk about something important while I let my chat GPT think. But I'm curious to know the numbers from Canada too, and I probably should have asked it Asia. But like, how many private campgrounds do we think are impacted by this? How many private campgrounds are near national parks?
Oh, that's
close enough
huge.
To be impacted by this.
No, I'm doing what you're doing
on ChatGPT. Are you using the?
Yeah.
Use the 4.0 model. Have it. Well.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to go fast. Yeah.
All right. So we have approximately 500,000 European visitor stays at private campgrounds near national parks. We assume the same base for Canadian visitors, 500,000. That makes sense because it's closer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Average daily spend is $200 a day with an average stay of 3 days, i.e. $600 in revenue per stay. Agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, European visitor impact baseline revenue, 500,000 stays at 600 per stay is 300 million annually. A 10% reduction is a $30 million loss for private campgrounds. A 20% reduction is a $60 million loss. 30% is 90 million. If tariffs are imposed and the euro comes close to even with the US dollar, assume a sharper drop of about 50%, which yields a $150 million loss for private campgrounds. That's just from Europeans. Canadian revenue impact would be a 10% reduction is a $30 million loss. Combined total potential loss. All right, so and then we'll keep going like that. Let's assume tariffs on Canada and then run the same projections. What did you get, Greg?
It's giving me estimates. So for some reason, it says it can't. The online search is not working right now. But
no.
So 12,000 private campgrounds, 63 designated national parks, and over 400 total NPS managed sites. So on average, major national parks might have 15 to 50 private campgrounds around them. So it's not really, this is kind of worthless. Frankly, it's not able to get me anything right now.
All right, we'll see if I can access it on my end in a minute.
Could be an estimate of 2,000 to 3,000 private campgrounds located within an hour of a national park, and that
makes sense. That probably
That
makes
makes
12,000.
sense.
Yeah. I think that
That's a lot of campgrounds.
Yeah,
That's a big number you just read off.
Yeah, that's a massive number.
Yep.
Like, yeah. I mean, so again, politics aside, this is affecting your bottom line. Everybody who's watching the show.
Yep.
It's going to.
And there'll be a lag. You might not feel it at first, but it's coming.
Here's assumptions for the same regions: 500,000 per stay per region per year at private campgrounds. Did we assume that? I don't know if that's Asia. Do you think it's the same for Asia? It might be. Yeah, because it's way more people, right? So that could be the same number of people coming over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
For Canada, assuming tariffs imposed or tariff scenario, 50% reduction equals $150 million loss from Canada too. Now we're at $300 million in losses for Europe and Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Asia, 10% reduction is a $30 million loss, $60 million, so another $150 million from Asia. So we're at $450 million in lost revenue from international visitors if tariffs are imposed as an estimate. I mean, let's just assume that like all is fairies and roses and it's only half that. Are you prepared for half that? Like, I mean,
likely not.
That's ugly.
Could be. We just advised a client trying to buy a park in the New England states that gets a significant portion of their guests from Canada, that they should probably ask for a little bit of a different valuation on the park, and they're back in negotiations, even though it's under contract, because I think they were close to 20 some percent of their guests throughout the year coming down from Canada. What's that impacted by? Yeah, it's going to be significant. As you pointed out, people are already making that adjustment just from the kind of the animosity and the bluster and everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, where I live in Maine, we I know the campgrounds here rely on a lot of Canadian visitors in the summertime.
Okay.
We are under 2 hours from the Canadian border, and it's a very big outdoor rec location. A lot of them drive past us though and go down to Old Orchard Beach. So that's that area, by the way, in the summertime is filled with Canadian tourists. Filled. It's anyway. So it's people here are talking about it. It's a concern right now.
Estimated range. This is a 03 mini. While no centralized database exists, industry estimates and GIS analysis suggest roughly 1,000 to 2,000 private campgrounds are located within 30 minutes of. So your number is accurate, I think, for an hour.
Okay.
States with multiple or heavily visited parks such as California, Yosemite, Joshua Tree, Utah, Zion, Arches, Arizona, Grand Canyon, and Wyoming, Yellowstone, and Grand Teton tend to have a higher density of nearby private campgrounds. Definitions vary as to what counts within 30 minutes and what qualifies as a private campground. The actual number may differ slightly.
And places that same thing with the Great Smoky Mountains. You can throw a stone from one campground and hit 5 other campgrounds from that one. They're just everywhere. Similar thing.
I mean, this is just great. I mean, I'm interested too. Like, how much state park visitation is tied to trips involving national parks, like a multi-stop? I'm just curious. I don't know. Like, what do you guys think that number is? Like, for example, you were talking about KCN earlier. They own Gettysburg KOA, right?
Yep.
Which is actually Gettysburg is a national park, isn't it? But
yes.
Okay. Maybe you should put a phone call into KCN after this. I'm just saying. So, but state parks, like tied to like how often is and forget international necessarily, but like Americans,
Hmm.
How much is a trip to a national park? Like if you cancel that national park trip, then you also maybe cancel 2 nearby state parks or whatever that you were also going to visit as part of that trip, whether we're on the
Sure.
route or whatever else, right? Industry surveys and regional studies suggest roughly 25 to 30% of state park visitation is part of multi-stop trips that include national parks. So,
Absolutely. This was, we were thinking early on that this year might be the return of some of the bigger trips. That people would be much more likely to take those longer trips, the multi-stop stays. Um, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal when you think about that type of impact, and that's what a lot of people do. They'll take 2 weeks and they'll hit 5 or 6 national parks, but they'll also stay. They have to stay somewhere along the way typically. So and they look for the private campgrounds just for hookups, the services, stuff, the experience too. So if that person's not taking that long trip, it will hit the private campgrounds heavy.
Absolutely. And there's always opportunity in moments like this if you're ready to grab it. I think we touched on it in other shows. Maybe people are staying closer to home. You might have to try to
yeah,
grab.
but that doesn't save you from the European visitors and the Asian visitors and the Canada visitors.
No, it doesn't. But you may have to. So now what do? You're going to have to, maybe you got to try to appeal to a different audience. Maybe you do have to try to cater to last minute planners by tweaking making your cancellation policy a bit more friendly, highlighting your value and your affordability, marketing yourself as an affordable adventure, or
you got to do something.
Adjusting your offerings, right? Make things. Everybody wants that weekday stay because it's easier to get people on the weekend. Maybe this year it's not easy to get people on the weekend anymore. Maybe it's time to do some weekend focused events, 2-night specials, whatever it might be. There's going to need to be a shift in your marketing, potentially, but there are opportunities in this. Even if these people don't come, it's going to take a lot of work to keep yourself where you're at, right? We talked about this. Was it week 1? Hey, if you come out of this year as even, or maybe down just 1 or 2%, you might have to look at that as a win this year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get it to give me the correct numbers for this stuff. I can't type the right prompt. Like it still assumed the 450 million, right? But there's obviously more campgrounds that are impacted for the 30% of those trips that would impact state parks was what I was trying to get after, right? But I guess it's still the same number for revenue loss. But there's more parks that could potentially be impacted than 2,000 to 3,000, I think is what we're saying, right?
I would say I would put that estimate up much higher.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about what you're going to do here, but this is, we talked about pivoting to the education and some of those, but what is your messaging? You don't, yes, you go after locals, you better get on the phone. I'm trying to rack my brain from a marketing standpoint with this. This is staggering amounts of money that you're losing.
Potentially.
Private campground, potentially.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, again, the man paused his tariffs for 30 days once. He couldn't do it again. And the reciprocal tariffs are supposedly not going to start coming into effect until the beginning of April, whereas Canada and Mexico has another artificial deadline supposedly next week.
But even if it doesn't, there's going to be a lot of people just kind of irked at the fact that we're supposed to be friends and now you're poking me in the ribs, and it's not in a jovial kind of poking in the ribs, and they're not. That's what we're seeing right now with Canada, right? That's
and that's what you'll see from Europe. And remember, there's a threat of these tariffs, right?
Right.
So people in Europe and Asia are planning these trips really far in advance.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. They might easily, and they will easily cancel anyway, whether they're not going to wait to see.
Yep.
There's enough.
It'll be interesting what we're talking about 3 months from now. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what we're talking about as Labor Day, Memorial Day approaches.
I'm just kind of blown here. I wasn't expecting to uncover that kind of data on this show. I don't think.
Why the hell not? It's a data and AI driven show.
I know, but
It's
to
your
to
show.
come prepared with it is one thing. To uncover it in real time is another interesting thing. Like it doesn't. Okay, let's spend the last 15 minutes, unless you guys have some thoughts on this again, about our RV day pass.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good to pivot.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so we're talking about revenue loss here. Let's talk about revenue gain.
Yep.
So if I'm facing $450 million down the drain, this is one of the ways that I can make this up, right? I have to start rethinking about, not that this is the pivot for everybody, to be clear, but one of the options you have is to say, like, I'm going to, it's interesting. I can't make the brightness on my little display a little lighter, so it's just glaring in my face and I look.
It's a nice little
anyway.
side light. It's good. It's good for
Yeah.
you.
I actually have a beautiful, no, I don't have a beautiful tan, but I was going to lie for a second. So how do you make up this revenue? And so, like, not that this is the only way, but this is one way where you can consider this. So we've talked, obviously, there's been parks in the past that have used day passes to their swimming pool. But as you look at like electric cars that need charging spots, as you look at enhancing souvenir items in your store that we talked about, or packaging things together with park service passes that won't work for international travelers, but might work for locals, as you look at enhancing educational experiences, like, take it away, guys. What does this look like from a value add experience, from a, I'm no longer just, because the traditional stereotypical view of an RV park is you are short-term transient overnight or you are long-term monthly seasonal. Like, what about being
Or a
the hourly
blend.
hotel?
Yeah. Or a blend. There's a lot of blend there too, where you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
something.
yeah. But what
Yeah.
about being something completely new?
Yeah. There's a lot of parks. We did a little bit of both. We had, on the weekends, you could only get into our place as a day visitor if you were visiting someone that was on site and in the campground. Because we were typically, most of our facilities were fairly well stressed already, pretty maxed out. But through the week, sure, you want to come in and swim, you want to come in. But then we toyed with a model where we played with exclusivity. Okay, can we charge the folks who are staying here a little bit more to make up for the day pass people who aren't coming, and charge it as, well, you're getting exclusivity. That's worth paying for, right? And folks were happy to pay it. We never experienced anything like what we're potentially forecasting here, right? So you definitely need to be open and ready to pivot. If that seems like that's the word of the show, pivot, into that new model, right? If you're fortunate enough to be near a population center or even just a small town, you can do that. But there are a lot of parks that are, gosh, I'm trying to think of the town, Holstein, Iowa, that I stayed in on my way to, that was awesome. I had some of the best wings I ever had, and I experienced a gas station. It was like the land that time forgot. I went in to pay with my credit card, like prepay. They were like, "You don't do that. Just pump the gas and come back in. The pumps are on. They're always on." I was like, "Where am I? When am I?" I think I'm in, 1980 or something. I don't even remember when that was available to a person. There's nothing there. There's a park just down the road. And in fact, it's a KOA, and I can't think of the name of it now, but it's an on the way park that when Sturgis and other rallies are going on out west and people are going to the Black Hills, this place is hammered. They can't switch to day passes because there's nothing there. There's a grain elevator you can see in the distance and a bunch of corn going the other way. There's no one around. But to the parks that can switch to it, it can be very lucrative if you've got something to offer. And so there's the other part of the pivot. What do you offer? What can you do to bring those people in on weekdays, on the weekends? But I love day passes, especially if you've got something that you can make into a bit of an attraction. And that can be as simple as pumping up your activity programming and inviting the general public in for it.
Okay, so activity programs, swimming pools are easy. Give
Yep.
me some more off the beaten path ideas.
I think food,
Yep.
whether it's you're serving it or maybe you have outdoor cooking classes. People love the outdoor cooking stuff. I was gonna say food, any kind of activity. Could be crafty. It could be guy with a chainsaw making a bear. Something. I say this a lot. In general, people are fairly bored and they're looking for stuff to do.
Yep.
And just be creative. Do anything. Have a cornhole tournament. People love that. I mean, the people around here, they go down to the park in our town and play cornhole once a week. For everybody throws in $20, and you know what I mean. It's just and it's packed. So that anyway, there's a lot of good opportunities to bring people in. Just doing almost anything.
Do we want to hear from our fourth host?
Do we have a choice?
Our fourth host, and I just want to put this out here for the future here. Lisa's going to share this in a second. Go ahead, Lisa. Our fourth host, I asked, you are the fourth silent host for our podcast. Give yourself a cool name. And so Sierra is apparently the fourth host. So we're going to refer to Sierra whenever we need our fourth host in the future. But up here, I ask it. Up there was a discussion. So this is the thing I sent you guys about the RV revenue share or day passes and things. Give me 20 ideas for these two groups and other revenue generating opportunities. So we have flexible day passes, offer day use passes that include access to key amenities like showers, restrooms, Wi-Fi for locals seeking a quick outdoor escape. Co-working zones set up dedicated co-working areas with high-speed internet, comfortable seating, and meeting rooms tailored for remote workers. This can work forget about the remote workers who own RVs, the remote workers if you're near a town. There's co-working spots that exist.
Yep.
So attract those people from the 9 to 5 during the day. Give them a nice coffee shop. Give them a place to sit with reliable Wi-Fi. Give them a nice community space with plants. This already probably exists if you have a clubhouse, right? Outdoor, you just have to market it to non-RVers. Outdoor wellness classes host yoga, fitness boot camps, or meditation sessions to draw day visitors and wellness-focused remote workers. Guided nature tours provide hiking, bird watching, or photography tours that enrich the outdoor experience for both day visitors and work retreats. Pop-up food experiences partner with local chefs or food trucks for on-site dining events that transform a regular day visit into a culinary outing. Local artisan markets organize weekend markets featuring local crafts, produce, and art, making the park a community hub. Event and conference rentals rent out spaces for corporate retreats, local meetups, or remote work conferences, capitalizing on scenic, inspiring settings. Are we good so far? Does it make sense for people?
Mm-hmm.
Themed weekend packages create seasonal packages such as stargazing nights, wine tastings, or cultural festivals to attract visitors for day trips. And again, this just requires a rethinking, right? A bunch of people are already creating these wine tastings, these experiential things, but they're only targeting a narrow group of RV people. Why? Now, I mean, the answer is staffing issues and things like that, right? And for all the reasons that your facilities are already overwhelmed that you talk about, right? So obviously this isn't just an overnight flip of the switch for everybody. You can fix this. But why? Why not? If you're in an area, let's pretend in a wine region that can offer truly good day trip wine tasting experiences, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You're giving away revenue. And you might be ready to lose 450 million of it potentially. So perhaps let's claw some of that back, right?
Absolutely.
Let's see. Sorry, you were going to. What did you say?
No, I said absolutely. No. It's all about the pivot.
Recreational equipment rentals offer rentals for bikes, kayaks, or paddleboards to encourage active exploration during day visits. Pet-friendly zones, designated areas, and host events for pet owners, appealing to families and remote workers with pets. Outdoor fitness facilities install you look at your dog park though. Your dog. I have a dog park in my neighborhood that's right around the corner in it's not really a suburban thing, but it's in Calgary. But there's lots of places that don't have nice dog parks. You have one. Lots of people who live in your local area would love to come let their dogs run in your dog park while they work, or let their kids play in your playground, or you have lots of things to offer for people. Outdoor fitness facilities install outdoor gyms or fitness trails to serve the health-conscious local community. Seasonal events run special events like outdoor movie nights, bonfires, or holiday festivals to boost day use traffic. What's the logistics of like a drive-in movie at a campground?
I think I've heard of campgrounds doing it.
But how hard is it to set up a big enough screen, I guess?
You don't go for the Gigantor screen. You go, a little bit more downscale. But yeah, campgrounds do it all the time. I've heard of many people doing this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a marketing event right there. Like, popcorn is less than $19 for 2 ounces at the movie theater, or whatever they're charging now.
Right.
So, seasonal events. Oh, we talked about that. Membership or loyalty programs, local business partnerships, collaborate with nearby restaurants, cafes, or shops to create bundled discounts and cross promotions for day visitors. Sustainability workshops, host sessions on eco-friendly living, gardening. This is kind of, a lot of this is the same as experiences, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is all stuff that is most of it's achievable. At least to have as in your consideration set. It depends what you have local. I mean, partnering with the local communities, find what people have, and then a lot of this stuff can be easily done through that.
This right here. Develop subscription packages for regular day access. Stop charging $10 a use. Sell a damn pass, because just like the gyms, they won't use it.
Yep. And just charge for it. You maybe you wouldn't be, because you talk to a lot of campground owners, but I talk to a lot of campground owners and operators, and I am still absolutely shocked by how many of them are like, do you think I should charge day visitors? If they're standing inside your camp, yes, absolutely yes. Well, I get pushback from my guests and they don't want to be. That's going to happen. Like, that's just a part of doing business. But my goodness, if nothing else, they represent look at it from they represent a liability standing there. You want to cover a little bit of that? Do you want to? I mean, you have costs ongoing that everyone should share in, and you're allowed to make a profit. By all means, charge for daily, but anyone that comes in your park, whether they're visiting someone or they're there for an event, charge those people money. Find a rate that covers your costs and puts money in your pocket, and charge them.
On-site convenience stores add amenities such as cafes or small convenience stores that cater to day users, increasing on-site spending. We talked about it with a client about this earlier, not this specifically, but they wanted to cut their rates to fill up quicker. Like, I'm not generally a fan of cutting rates. I'm fine with offering discounts, but not cutting rates. Yeah. But there is an argument to be said. Well, what if you could cut rates and make up that money double by creating on-site services where once they're there, they spend? They buy T-shirts, they buy things from your store, they buy coffee, they do wine tastings, they do, right? Because then that's the argument of like Mark Twain Landing, which is now, I think, owned by Jenkins. But when we worked for them, they were owned by Bruce Bryan and Legacy RV Resort years and years and years ago. And he would always tell me, like, I don't understand why you want me to cut prices at my water park. Because you have a bar and you have a store and you have like all the extra passes inside your, like, get them into the water park. Right. And so that's the same, but you have to have something for them to buy to make up for the revenue. But that can work. Digital nomad networking, explore organized meetups and networking events. This is good. Like, there's that, what's the app where you can meet up with different groups? Isn't there a couple apps that do that? Where like you can find little clubs of people who like to do what you like to do, like hiking or bird watching.
Yeah, I'm not going to think of it, but yeah.
But anyway, but something like that, right? Like organized meetups, post them on the app. Like, do some more. Like, there's so many people who talk about going into the Facebook groups and saying, I want to spam my event, or I want to spam my, like my park in the group where the things are already existed and being planned by other people. Plan your own thing. Put it on the group. I'm hosting an event. I'm doing this. There's a hiker meetup, and it just happens to be at my campground. Well, like, then you don't have to advertise your campground as part of something else. It's at your campground. And then have things to sell them. Last two, enhance tech infrastructure, invest in robust Wi-Fi and power solutions, and customizable experience packages. Allow guests to build their own day-use packages with add-ons like guided tours, meal deals. So this is like sell a base subscription and then a la carte add-ons on top of the subscription, so they're always paying a base rate, and they could change what they want to do a la carte every time they come.
Exactly. I think. Yep.
That's big revenue. So, fuck. 36, 35, 34, 33 seconds. Final thoughts, guys?
We unpacked a lot here today.
A lot.
It was a fucking good show, wasn't it?
I hope people. Hopefully, we're not canceled and we weren't just talking to ourselves.
Scott, I want to make sure we're canceled. Say it was a fucking good show.
You want
You
me
can
to
do
say that?
Yes, I want you to say that.
It was a great.
Embrace the Outwired. Come on, man. You can do it.
I just said it was a great show.
No, a great fucking show.
Why you want me to throw out F-bombs? I'm
Because
such a
I don't
proper
know.
person.
That's true. You probably are. You're the most proper person I know, Scott. That's fair. Greg will do it.
We need we've got to have somebody besides Sierra. I think it's good that Scott's not throwing out F-bombs, since you and I do with regularity. And I think it's very good that our fourth host is Sierra, because this is a lot. Well, maybe not a lot, but it's a moderate amount of testosterone with the three of us on here. So I think it's nice to have Sierra, and I think Lisa joins us from time to time to bring that down. And we may have been canceled. You realize this is our first show without a comment in the chat. So
yeah, that
I
was because
noticed
I
that.
didn't get to invite anybody on LinkedIn. So I have
Oh,
Pearl in my
okay.
EA inviting people to watch the show on LinkedIn. So people are probably watching, but just not in the same numbers live as we normally would have, because LinkedIn puts a limit on the number of invites, and she like
Right on.
invited everybody to fireside chats and then ran out of invites for this show. So, but
Well,
you guys
I
need
do-
to do that on your side. Like, you need to
I
do the
did-
invite thing. Okay.
I did last week. I didn't get to it this week, but you're right.
Yeah,
I do.
it's a
But
lot to go
I
through.
do feel like, along with Scott, we unpacked a lot, and I hope it was really valuable for people, because I feel like, especially the discussion around the national parks.
Yeah, that is mind
that was a
blowing.
lot of fun to have. I hope it wasn't just fun for us. I hope everybody enjoyed it out there too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not fun for the campgrounds near the national parks,
Yeah,
but at least now you have a heads up.
But yeah, we threw them. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, like we talked about. This is not all doom and gloom. It's just it's about the
It's about the pivot.
It is about the pivot. I'm going to get a shirt that says pivot and wear it on the show every week for the rest of the year. I'm not going to wash it, and we'll just see how long it takes to fall apart.
Whenever we wrap up the show, however long it goes, year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, by the time it wraps up on the final episode, I'm going to do a fucking pivot in this chair somehow. I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Do it.
Can't wait to see it.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Good show,
Appreciate
guys.
another
All right,
good
gentlemen.
show.
It was great
We'll see you
talking.
later.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.